All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're going deep into the Sackler family.
Oh, this should be a good one.
It is, it is. This is the family behind Purdue Pharma
Right.
and, of course, the painkiller OxyContin.
Yeah.
So we're using Empire of Pain
The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty.
by Patrick Radden Keefe. And
great book.
it is a great book. And we're going to try to uncover their rise to power, their influence on, well, big pharma, and, the ethics of their whole legacy.
It's going to be complex, that's for sure.
It is. It is. So we're going to start with the Sackler brothers, and they started in Brooklyn.
Yeah, humble beginnings, right.
Yeah. Keefe paints a really interesting picture of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were children of immigrants.
Striving for the American dream.
Yeah. What stands out to you about them in these early years?
Arthur, the eldest brother, he was obsessed with the Founding Fathers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially Thomas Jefferson. Even in high school, he had this drive, to build a real legacy.
A dynasty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you see that ambition play out later.
So he had this vision.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. It's like he wanted to be a pioneer,
Yeah.
like in the world of medicine.
You got it. A real trailblazer. And what's wild is they got their start in advertising.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They were selling ads, to their classmates.
Get out of here.
For Chesterfield cigarettes.
No kidding.
It's crazy, right? You think about that, and then their later approach to marketing pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, that's kind of...
Yeah, it makes you think.
It does. Makes you think. But before we get into all of that, the marketing,
Right.
we got to note that they actually had some trouble getting into medical school.
Oh, that's right.
Keefe talks about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, they face real barriers.
So they ended up having to study abroad.
Some less prestigious institutions, too.
I see. So they kind of had to fight for everything.
Oh, absolutely. You can imagine how that shaped them, right?
Sure.
Fueled their ambition, made them want to prove themselves, Especially in a system that wasn't always so welcoming.
Yeah. Then we have Arthur Sackler.
This guy, he was a game changer.
Oh, he was.
He had this radical idea about mental illness.
Right.
He thought, what if it wasn't just about, your childhood or your genes, but about imbalances in brain chemistry?
Wow. So that's...
Totally different from what everyone else was saying back then.
Yeah.
It opened up a whole new way of thinking about research and treatment.
So then he, along with his brothers, Mortimer and Raymond,
The whole crew.
they start doing experiments at Creedmoor.
Creedmoor. Huge psychiatric hospital in Queens.
Oh, right.
And with all those patients, it became their living laboratory?
That's kind of wild when you think about it.
It does make you think about the ethics, right? Large-scale studies in a place like that.
Yeah, especially with mental health.
Informed consent, vulnerability, these are still issues today.
Big issues, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Arthur in his approach to, marketing.
Groundbreaking, yeah.
But also...
Controversial.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
A tree maverick.
That's him.
So he completely revolutionizes pharmaceutical advertising.
He did.
And it all comes from this idea, right, that doctors are like these unimpeachable figures, like Keefe says. He believed that promoting drugs was all about education.
He did. And he used everything. Catchy slogans, targeted messaging in journals, appealed to their desire to help their patients.
So he's tapping into that trust.
That's right.
The doctor-patient relationship.
Yep. And you see it with drugs like Librium and Valium.
Some of the first blockbuster drugs.
Which, they helped a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they did.
People struggling with anxiety, insomnia.
Yeah.
But there was a dark side, too, right?
There always is.
Critics were saying he was downplaying the addiction risks, putting profit before patients, and those accusations, along with his tactics.
They really foreshadow.
Oh, they do.
The Purdue Pharma story and OxyContin.
Absolutely. And Arthur, he died in '87 before OxyContin even came about. But his influence, especially on Purdue Pharma, run by his brother Raymond.
Right.
It's undeniable.
And then comes OxyContin. A powerful painkiller, a turning point.
Oh, for sure.
For the Sacklers and for the opioid crisis.
No question about it.
So Richard Sackler, he's the one who spearheaded this.
Right, Raymond's son.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
And they had a strategy.
Oh, they did. They were targeting chronic pain sufferers.
A huge market.
Huge. And they're saying OxyContin is safer than morphine, downplaying the addiction risk.
And the main ingredient, oxycodone.
Yeah. That's a potent opioid.
It is. And their marketing just went into hyperdrive.
It did.
Lavish conferences for doctors, showering them with gifts. This whole message of 12 hours of pain relief.
Oh, yeah. Who wouldn't want that?
So like a drink.
Especially if you're dealing with chronic pain.
Right.
But there's a catch.
Always a catch.
There is. That 12-hour claim, not always accurate.
Really?
Yeah, patients ended up needing more doses,
Oh, it's so...
more risk of dependence.
And then Purdue, they get connected to these key figures.
Oh, yeah. Russell Portnoy,
Pain specialist.
big name in pain management.
And Curtis Wright at the FDA.
Powerful connections.
They're all about these relationships.
Oh, yeah. And those relationships helped legitimize opioid use for chronic pain.
And paved the way for OxyContin's approval.
Exactly. A lot of factors came together.
Yeah.
New drug, a shift in thinking about pain, and a regulatory environment that, well, was sort of on their side, at least at first.
But we know this convergence.
It had devastating consequences, that aggressive marketing, the addictive properties, lack of safeguards.
Yeah.
This is how you fuel a public health crisis.
And that's what happened.
Unfortunately.
It's kind of like watching like an empire crumble, right?
Yeah, like a house of cards.
All this evidence piling up.
About the addiction.
About the consequences.
Devastating consequences.
Especially those pill mills. That was scary.
Oh, those are bad news.
Yeah.
Doctors just handing out prescriptions.
Like it was nothing.
Yeah, like candy. No regard for the patients, the addiction potential.
And certain places, Appalachia, for example, they got hit hard.
Oh, yeah, they were already struggling economically, healthcare access.
And then this...
It just added fuel to the fire.
It's wild. But, what's interesting is how Purdue responded to all of this.
Right, to the lawsuits, the accusations.
Yeah, I mean, they were getting hit from all sides.
Individuals, states, the feds.
Hey.
You guys are using deceptive marketing.
Yeah.
But Purdue, they doubled down.
Right, like...
They hired this crisis management firm.
Known for their aggressive tactics.
Oh, yeah, they were playing hardball.
Sounds like they were more interested in protecting themselves.
Than taking responsibility.
Yeah, their image, the profits.
It fueled the outrage, for sure.
That comes...
People were comparing them to Exxon, Philip Morris.
Those PR nightmares.
Yeah, it shows you how far they were willing to go.
To control the story.
They spin it their way.
But even with all that, the sales just kept going up.
Skyrocketing. Millions of dollars.
And people are dying.
Overdoses on the rise.
Yeah, yeah. So did any of these legal battles actually stick?
Well, there was this one moment, 2007.
Okay.
Purdue, and 3 of their execs, they plead guilty.
To what?
Criminal charges. They admitted to misleading regulators, the public.
About OxyContin.
Yeah. The risks.
But didn't the Sacklers themselves kind of skate by?
You're right. None of the family members.
No charges.
No criminal charges.
And they kept profiting.
From OxyContin.
Even after the guilty plea.
Yeah, it's a point of contention for sure.
Yeah, I bet. So talk about a complicated legacy.
Oh, the Sackler legacy is a tangled web.
They're billionaires.
Their names everywhere.
Museums, universities.
Institutions all over the world.
And they're known for their philanthropy.
Can't deny that.
But it's all tied up with OxyContin.
Some people see it as, trying to buy their way out.
Trying to polish their image.
Exactly.
While profiting from this drug that's destroying lives.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. But people started demanding accountability.
Oh, yeah. Artists, activists.
Even some of the Sacklers themselves.
They started speaking out.
Saying, enough is enough.
This isn't right.
And Nan Golden, the photographer, she was a huge voice.
Powerful voice.
She struggled with OxyContin herself.
Personal connection.
And she used her art, her activism.
To make a statement.
Staging protests, calling them out.
At the institutions bearing their name.
Wow.
Demanding they use their wealth to actually help.
To fix the problem.
And it brought so much attention.
Forced these institutions to really look at their ties.
To the Sacklers.
It's kind of amazing how art can do that.
It can be a catalyst.
For real change.
Make people uncomfortable.
Hold the powerful accountable.
Exactly.
And then you have Maura Healey.
The Massachusetts AG.
2019, she drops this lawsuit.
A bombshell.
Revealing all these documents.
Criminal documents.
Showing the Sacklers' direct involvement.
In those marketing schemes.
No more hiding.
It was a game changer.
Really exposed them.
It showed they knew about the risks.
Of OxyContin.
But they pushed for higher doses, longer prescriptions.
All while downplaying the addiction.
And their philanthropy, it just started to look different.
Like a facade.
A family driven by profit.
Even when it meant hurting people.
Yeah, a dark side of the story.
So what about that congressional hearing?
2020.
Yeah, when the Sacklers testified?
Oh, that was intense. Victims, their families.
They got to confront them.
Face to face.
Share their stories, the pain, the loss.
I can't even imagine.
Well, it's been so emotional.
It was. And the Sacklers, they offer condolences.
Huh.
They deny personal responsibility.
Which just made people even angrier.
Oh, yeah. It added fuel to the fire.
So where do things stand now? with justice, accountability, all of that.
Well, Purdue Pharma, they filed for bankruptcy in 2019.
To protect themselves from the lawsuits.
Right.
And they ended up settling
Billions of dollars.
for treatment programs, stuff like that.
They had to try and address the opioid crisis.
But the Sacklers themselves,
They weren't held personally liable.
so they got off.
They gave up control to Purdue, contributed some money.
But a lot of people say it's not enough.
Not nearly enough considering their wealth, the scale of the damage.
So it's still an open question, right?
It is. What does true accountability look like? Is money enough to heal this kind of wound?
It's kind of crazy to me.
What is it?
That with everything going on, the lawsuits, the accusations, they're still out there being celebrated, you know, for their philanthropy.
Yeah.
It makes you think, what does it even mean to have a legacy, to be a benefactor?
Right. It's a real head scratcher.
It is. It is. I think this whole Sackler story.
It forces us to ask some tough questions
Oh, yeah.
about corporate responsibility, the power of, well, marketing.
Especially in medicine.
Where does profit fit in? What about public health?
And how do we even define philanthropy?
And when the source of the wealth is so controversial.
Right, right. Because this isn't just history, you know.
Not at all.
The opioid crisis, it's still happening.
It's a tragedy that's unfolding right now.
It is. It is. And if we really want to find solutions
We got to go deeper.
beyond just blame,
Yeah, we got to look at the system.
how did this even happen?
Exactly. Think about overprescribing painkillers.
The influence of these big
on
companies
doctors, on practice.
and the lack of treatment options.
for addiction.
It's a mess.
It is. But one thing about the Sackler story,
What's that?
it shows the power of a good story.
What do you mean?
For years, they controlled their image.
They did.
Philanthropists, benefactors.
Ignoring the opioid connection.
But lately, that story's been changing.
I think so, yeah.
Thanks to journalists, lawsuits, activists like Nan Golden.
Speaking truth to power.
Exactly.
So it's a reminder for everyone to be skeptical.
Don't just believe what you hear.
Question everything, right?
And look for different perspectives.
Get the whole picture. So if people take away one thing from this deep dive,
What would it be?
what should they remember?
I think it's about thinking critically,
About the world around us.
about the systems we live in. Where do our meds come from? Who's telling us what to take?
Who's profiting from it?
Exactly. And how do we hold those in power accountable?
Yeah. It's about staying informed,
Having these conversations
demanding justice for the victims,
of this crisis.
because it's not over.
Not by a long shot.
The opioid crisis, it's complicated,
No easy answers.
but we have to understand it.
Its roots, the uncomfortable truths,
Keep asking questions,
finding solutions.
preventing these tragedies.
Because they don't have to happen.
Well, that's our deep dive into the Sackler family and the opioid crisis.
A lot to think about.
There is. But thank you for joining us, and keep exploring this.
It's important.
It is. Keep questioning, keep learning.
And keep diving deep.